Everywhere I go, the children rise. Everywhere I go, the children rise. I saw them just rise up, the wicked run. I saw them just rise up, the wicked run. Equal rights and justice, when I defend, we won't run away. Run away, run away, run away, run away. We won't run away. Run away, run away, run away, run away. If you go in America, children rise. If you go in Canada, children rise. If you go in Africa, children rise. I saw them just rise up, the wicked run. I saw them just rise up, the wicked run. I saw them just rise up, the wicked run. We won't run away. Run away, run away, run away, run away. We won't run away. Run away, run away, run away, run away.
Shalom and blessings to all my brothers and sisters, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, our Mashiach came, who is over all, Elohim blessed forever and ever. Hallelujah. Amen. I want to give all praises and honor to our Heavenly Father, sustainer of all things, sustainer of life. I want to give all praises to his one and only begotten Son, Yehoshua Mashiach, our Redeemer, our Savior, our Adonai. I want to give all praises to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, the Divine Comforter, the Spirit of Truth. All praises to the one and only Divine Elohim. I want to say shalom and blessings to everybody in the chat. Not many people today, but it's quite understood. You know, everybody's probably relaxing today and getting ready for the week. But this will be up on the platform nonetheless. I want to say shalom to Shibriya, my love. Shalom to you, Sister Linda Ricks. Shalom and blessings to you. Hope all is well. Marcella Smith, shalom to you. Hope you're doing well today. Hadasah Ben Yah, shalom and blessings to you. All right. So what we're going to be doing today is picking it up where we left off yesterday in the book of Acts. And since we pretty much have a good rhythm for what's going on, a pretty good foundational view for what's going on due to what we examined from the Apostle Paul's history and from what we've already solidified through the book of Acts. You know, we should have a pretty good flow for what's going on. By now, it should be established that this is an Israelite record, and the whole record is dealing with the Most High and his chosen people, his relationship with his chosen people, and how he's going to judge the nations on behalf of his people. All right. So that's what the record is about. When the Most High sent his apostles out, he sent them out to the lost sheep. All right. Understanding the climate to the best of our ability, we know and understand during that time that the known world during that time was under Roman province. So everywhere that the gospel was sent out was under that particular kingdom's control. And at the same time, all of our people, whether Jews or Gentiles meaning one of the lost 10 tribes, they were all scattered in those regions, all right, dwelling in those regions, mostly the Jews, all right, who dwelt from Jerusalem all the way up into Rome. All right, that's where the Apostle Paul and the Apostle Peter were martyred. in Rome. So we're going to pick it up in Acts, the 15th chapter. We're going to just kind of read through. I won't be expounding much, like I said, since we have a good understanding. We'll be able to just kind of get through this. All right, shalom, Brother Yash. Hope you're doing well today. Hope you had a good day today. We're going to be picking it up in the book of Acts, 15th chapter. Shalom, Sister Yehoah's daughter of Zion. Hope you're doing well today. Hope you had a blessed day. All right, so if you want to read along with me, if you have your own book, feel free. I'm reading from a Hebrew version, as y'all know. So some of the words may be a little unfamiliar, but they all line up practically with what we read. All right, so we're in Acts 15, dealing with the apostles going out to different places, preaching the gospel to the Jews and to the Gentiles. All right. So we're in 15. It says, and certain men which came down from Judah taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. All right. So you had Jews as well as the apostles. It seems almost as if when the apostles went out and preached, then you had the Jews come behind them and trying to reestablish the people's belief after Moses and not after Mashiach. And so verse 2, it says, when therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Apollos and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question, about the circumcision. And being brought on their way by the assembly, they passed through Panokia and Shamron, declaring the conversion of the Gentiles. And they caused great joy unto all the brethren. So because of the conversion of the Gentiles, it caused great joy to the brethren, who were the Jews. It says, and when they were come to Jerusalem, they received of the assembly. They were received of the assembly and of the apostles and elders. And they declared all things that Elohim had done with them. There rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees which believed, saying that it was needful to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moses. All right. So this was one of the main issues, the main disputes they had was over the circumcision. All right. And because of the circumcision, they mistook that as him saying that they didn't have to keep the law of Moses. It says, and the apostles and elders came together for to consider this matter. And when there had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago Elohim made choice among us that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. This is Peter speaking. And when did this happen? This happened in Acts, the 10th chapter, and it happened with Cornelius. All right. Remember, we read about Cornelius and we asked about the attributes of Cornelius. How did he receive those attributes of knowing the Most High if he had not been an Israelite? Seeing that Israel only knew the Most High, how to keep his customs, how to fast and pray, and do all those different things. So he's referring to the instance he had with Cornelius. It says, and Elohim, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Ruach HaKodesh, even as he did unto us, and put no difference between us and them. No difference between the Jew and the Greek, purifying their hearts by faith. Now, therefore, Why tempt ye Elohim to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? But we believe that through the grace of Adonai Yehoshua Mashiach, we shall be saved, and even as they, even as we. Verse 12, then all the multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Paul, declaring what miracles and wonders Elohim had wrought among the Gentiles by them. All right. Declaring what miracles and wonders Elohim had wrought among the Gentiles by them. And after they had held their peace, Jacob answered, saying, men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simon had declared, or Peter had declared, how Elohim at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith Jehovah, that doeth this. All right, so this sort of puts a different perspective on that remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name. All right. Remember, in the history, it said they went out and taught among the Israelitish congregations when they went out to all these different places. 18, it says, known unto Elohim are all his works from the beginning of the world. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to Elohim, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. So we read last night how there were Jews who were called Greeks. All right, but he's saying right here, the sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to Elohim. All right. But we already established that when he went out among the Gentiles, that he was dealing with the Jews who were among the Gentiles. All right. Then it said it was some proselytes as well. Right. Not really denoting what those were ethnic wise. All right. A proselyte doesn't denote an ethnicity. Neither does a Gentile. It doesn't denote any one ethnicity. But the standard was that those who were among the Gentiles, that they abstain from pollution of idols, from fornication, things strangled, and from blood. For Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the congregations every Shabbat day. Moses of old time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in the congregations every Shabbat day. So they pretty much saying among all the congregations, you have those who preach Moses, which we established that as well. When they went to the synagogues after the reading of the law, then they exhorted the people. It says, then pleased it the apostles and elders with the whole assembly to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judah, surnamed Barzabah, and Silas, chief men among the brethren. So these were more brethren. It says, and they wrote letters by them after this manner. The apostles and elders and brethren send greeting unto the brethren which are of the Gentiles in Antioch and Aram and Caliquia. So the message that they wrote up here about what it said. It said, trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to Elohim. That was referring to the brethren who were among the Gentiles in Antioch and in Aram and Cilicia. For as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, subverting your souls, saying ye must be circumcised and keep the Torah, to whom we gave no such commandment. It seemeth good unto us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen men unto you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men that have hazarded their lives for the name of our Adonai, Yehoshua Mashiach. We have sent them, therefore, Yehuda and Salah, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth, for it seemed good to the Ruach HaKodesh. All right, remember the Ruach, the Word, and the Father are one. For it seemed good to the Ruach HaKodesh and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that ye abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, for which if ye keep yourselves, ye shall do well, fare ye well. All right, so the message to the brethren who were among the Gentiles became to refrain from food sacrificed to idols, things sacrificed to idols, from blood, from fornication, and from things strangled. All right. And my understanding of that is because those who were scattered, they didn't have any priests set up in those lands where they were scattered. And the most they did do was establish the assemblies of the apostles, and the apostles appointed the heads over the assemblies. And so after Mashiach's time, there was no bloodshed required, all right, in terms of a sacrifice for sins and those things. Then it says that Mashiach, what did Paul said? He told the Jews in Jerusalem, or he told the Jews that circumcision verily profits them much if they keep the law. All right. But these were the brothers and sisters who were scattered among the other Gentiles. Remember, he told Paul he was going to send him afar off to preach to the Gentiles. And so this is the message that he was given to them. All right. It says in verse 30, so when they were dismissed, they came to Antioch, and when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the epistle. When they had read, they rejoiced for the consolation. And Judah and Salah, being prophets, also themselves exhorted the brethren with many words and confirmed them. All right, so these were the brethren, the kinsmen, according to the flesh, who were Israelites. It says, and after they had tarried there a space, they were let go in peace from the brethren unto the apostles. Notwithstanding, it pleased Salah to abide there still. Apollos also and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of Elohim with many others also. And some days after, Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of Adonai, and see how they do. So after they went out and preached the gospel, it says to the brethren, it says, and some days after, Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of Adonai, and see how they do. Because once again, when they went out and preached, it said they went out among the Israelitish congregations. So reading from an already understood perspective, we see that this is the southern kingdom who had been separate or divided from the northern kingdom being brought back together. All right. 37 says, and Barnabas determined to take with them John, whose surname was Mark. But Paul thought not good to take with them, who departed from them from Pamphylia and went not with them to the work. And the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder, one from the other. So Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Quifros. Excuse me. And Paul chose Salah and departed, being recommended by the brethren unto the grace of Elohim. And he went through Aram and Quiliquia, confirming the assembly. So they went back and traveled, pretty much just confirming the assemblies that they had established with the brethren. All right. There was contention once again over Paul not wanting Mark to go with them. All right, between him and Barnabas. So you can kind of see a pattern with that as well. You know, we talk about how people contend with one another today, and we see that same pattern in the records. Right? Always contention over something. 16, not justifying it, but you know, that's just what happened. It says, then came he to Derbe and Lustera, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman who was a Jewess and believed, but his father was a Greek. All right, talked about that yesterday. It says, which was well reported of by the brethren that were at Lustera and Iconios. Him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews, all right, which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. All right. So even after him telling the Gentiles, or the brethren who were among the Gentiles, not to worry about getting circumcised, now he's taking Timothy, it says, because of the Jews, right? And circumcised him because of the Jews who was in those quarters, verse 4. And as they went through the cities, they delivered them the decrees for to keep, that were ordained of the apostles and elders which were at Jerusalem. All right. And so were the assemblies established in faith and increased in number daily. All right. Now, when they had gone through Pergia and the region of Galatia, and were forbidden of the Ruach HaKodesh to preach the word in Asia, after they were come to Mysia, they essayed to go into Bithynia, but the Ruach suffered them not. So some regions the Most High wasn't allowing them to go into, at least not for that particular time. And it says, and they passing by Mysia came down to Teros, and a vision appeared to Apollos in the night. There stood a man of Macedonia and prayed with him, saying, come over into Macedon and help us, or Macedonia. And after he had seen the vision, immediately we endeavored to go into Macedonia, assuredly gathering that Adonai had called us for to preach the gospel unto them. 11, therefore losing from Teros, we came with a straight course to Samat Arkia, Samat Rakia, and the next day to Neapolis, and from thence to Philippos, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia and a colony. And we were in that city abiding certain days. And on the Shabbat, we went out of the city by the riverside. where prayer was wont to be made, and we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither. And a certain woman named Lud, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshipped Elohim, heard us, whose heart Adonai opened, and she attended unto the things which were spoken of Apollos. All right. My sheep hear my voice. So here was a woman who was living in Thyatira. All right. And it said that she worshiped Elohim. And she heard the apostles. And it said that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul, because she heard the words of the Most High. And they resonated with her. 15. When she was immersed late in her household, she besought us, saying, if ye have judged me to be faithful to Adonai, come into my house and abide there. She constrained us. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a ruach of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, which show unto us the way of salvation. All right. 18, it says, and this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Yehoshua Mashiach to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Apollos and Salah and drew them into the marketplace and the rulers, and brought them to the magistrate, saying, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. All right. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast to the stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Salah prayed and sang praises unto Elohim, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were opened, everyone's bands was loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awakening out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. Apollos cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light, and sprang in, and came trembling, and fell down before Apollos and Salah, and brought them out, and said, Adoniam, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe on Adonai Yehoshua HaMashiach, and thou shalt be saved, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house. And they spake unto him the word of Yahuwah, and to all that were in his house. He took them the same hour of the night, and washed their stripes, and was immersed, and all his straightway. 34. When he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them and rejoiced, believing in Elohim with all his house. And when it was day, the magistrates sent sergeants, saying, let those men go. And the keeper of the prison told this saying to Apollos, the magistrates has sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace. Apollos said unto them, they have beaten us openly, uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison, and now do they thrust us out privately? Nay, verily, but let them come themselves to fetch us out. And the surgeons told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans. All right, because remember Paul, he was from Tarshish. It says, and they came and besought them and brought them out and desired them to depart out of the city. And they went out of the prison and entered into the house of Lud. And when they had seen the brethren, they comforted them and departed. So pretty much in that city, the jailer was the only one who was converted in that city. And everybody else pretty much conspired to get him out of the city. But remember, it said Paul was Roman, all right? So they heard that they were Romans. 17 says, now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where was a congregation of the Jews. And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the scriptures, opening and alleging that Mashiach must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yehoshua, whom I preach unto you, is Mashiach. And some of them believed, and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks, and great multitude, and of the chief women, not a few. All right, the devout Greeks. Remember, we talked about that yesterday. All right. You had Jews who were from Jerusalem, who lived in other regions. And then you had Jews who were actually born in these other regions. All right, and that's the difference. It says, and of the chief women, not a few, but the Jews which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city on an uproar, and assaulted the house of Yason, and sought to bring them out to the people. So once again, you had Jews who believed and Jews who didn't believe. When they fought them not, they drew your son and certain brethren out unto the rulers of the city, crying, these that have turned the world upside down are come hither also, whom your son hath received. And these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Yehoshua. Because once again, who was ruling during that time? Verse 8, it says, and they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. And when they had taken security of Yason and of the other, they let them go. And the brethren immediately sent away Apollos and Silas by night unto Beroa, who coming thither went into the congregation of the Jews. Once again, these were more noble than those in Thessalonica, and that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily. All right. These were Jews, whether those things were so. Verse 12. Therefore, many of them believed, also of the honorable women, which were Greeks, and of men not a few. But when the Jews of Thessalonica had knowledge that the word of Elohim was preached of Apollos at Beroa, they came thither also and stirred up the people. All right. So you had the non-believing Jews who came behind Paul and always stirred up the people. And then immediately the brethren sent away Apollos to go, as it were, to the sea. But Silas and Timotheus abode there still. And they that conducted Apollos brought him unto Athens, and receiving a commandment unto Silas and Timotheus for to come to him with all speed, they departed. Now while Apollos waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore disputed he in the congregation of the Jews and with the devout persons in the marketplace daily with them that met with him. I'm trying to get y'all to see that everything that was going on with our people during this time, nobody else had anything else to do with it. The most that was happening in terms of other people is they were being converted through the miracles and the works that the apostles were doing. But everywhere they went among the congregation of the Jews. All right, then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, "What will this babbler say?" And others some, "He seemeth to be a setter forth of strange Elohim, because he preacheth unto them Yehoshua and the resurrection." And they took him and brought him unto Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine whereof thou speakest is. Thou bringest certain strange things to our ears. We would know therefore what these things mean." For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear some new thing. Then Apollos stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, "Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with the inscription to the unknown Elohim, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship. Him declare I unto you, Elohim that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Adonai of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and have determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek Elohim if happily they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of Elohim, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold, or silver, or stone, graven by art and men's device. He said, we ought not to think, he said, for as much then as we are the offspring of Elohim. All right. Elohim's offspring is highlighted in Luke, the 3rd chapter. All right, we made mention of that plenty of times, but we know the Most High created all men from Adam. However, the Most High's lineage is traced in Luke, the 3rd chapter, from himself all the way to Mashiach, and that lineage is traced through the Israelites. Excuse me. For as much then as we are the offspring of Elohim, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art and man's device. And the times of this ignorance Elohim winketh at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent, because he hath appointed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness. But that man whom he hath ordained, by that man whom he hath ordained, speaking of Mashiach, whereof he had given assurance unto all men, and that he had raised him from the dead. And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, And others said, we will hear again of this matter. So Apollos departed from among them, howbeit certain men clave unto him, and believed, among the which was Dionysius, the Areopagite, the Areopagite, and a woman named Damaris, the others with them. 18. After these things, Apollos departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. So right here we see an example of Jews who were in Rome, who were ordered by Claudius to leave Rome. All right. Maybe it was to go back to be taxed, or maybe they were just being exiled for something. But either way, these were Jews who were in Rome. And Paul encountered them. It says, and because he was of the same craft, he abode with them and wrought, for by their occupation they were tent makers. And he reasoned in the congregation every Shabbat and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. All right. What Jews and Greeks are keeping the Shabbat? All right. These Greeks are referring to the Jews who were born outside of the land of Jerusalem. If you were born in Jerusalem, you were considered a Jew. If you were born outside of Jerusalem, then you were considered a citizen of wherever you were born, although your blood stock was a Jew. Verse 5, and when Salah and Timotheus were come from Macedonia, Apollos was pressed in the spirit and testified to the Jews that Yehoshua was Mashiach. And when they opposed themselves and blasphemed, he shook his raiment and said unto them, your blood be upon your heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go unto the Gentiles. All right. But remember, Paul and Barnabas and everybody had already went back to Jerusalem and told them what the Most High had done among the Gentiles. And Peter as well. All right. So he's telling the Jews, all right, they're in Antioch, that, okay, I'm through talking to y'all. Now I'm finna go to the Gentiles. All right. And he departed thence and entered into a certain man's house named Justus, one that worshipped Elohim. These are all lost sheep. Excuse me. Whose house joined hard to the congregation. And Crispus, the chief ruler of the congregation, believed on Adonai with all his house. And many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were immersed. Then spake Adonai to Paul in the night by a vision, be not afraid, but speak, and hold not thy peace, for I am with thee, and no man shall set on thee to hurt thee, for I have much people in this city. Most High said, then spake Adonai to Apollos in the night by a vision. All right, so this is Adonai speaking, saying, for I have much people in this city. And he continued there 1 year and 6 months, teaching the word of Elohim among them. And when Gallio was the deputy of Achaia, the Jews made insurrection with one accord against Paul and brought him to the judgment seat, saying, this fellow persuaded men to worship Elohim contrary to the Torah. Same thing people say today about when you tell them about Mashiach. They want to take you to Exodus 20, not realizing who's the one that gave Moses the law. 14, and when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words and names and of your law, look ye to it, for I will be no judge in such matters. All right, so who is this Galileo? All right, Galileo was the deputy, all right, of Achaia. But it says, and when Apollos was now about to open his mouth, Galileo said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. So if this was something that was just wrong or bad, then I could deal with it. But he said, but if it be a question of words and names and of your Torah, look ye to it, for I will be no judge in such matters. In other words, that's y'all business. This is what the Gentiles, quote unquote, thought about the Israelites and their affairs during that time. The only thing that got some of their attention was the miracles that was done. Outside of that, they didn't care about nothing that was going on with our people. And you can go back and see that when you read about when Mashiach was on trial with Pilate. All right. 16, and he drave them from the judgment seat. Then all the Greeks took Sosthenes, the chief ruler of the congregation, and beat him before the judgment seat. And Galileo cared for none of those things. And Paul, after this, tarried yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Aram, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn their heads in Cenchreae, for he had a vow. Priscilla and Aquila. So these were the Jews who came from Italy. They were put out by Claudius. They had a vow. All right, it says, and he came to Ephesus and left them there. He himself entered into the congregation and reasoned with the Jews in Ephesus. And when they desired him to tarry long a time with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. But I will return again unto you, if Elohim will. And he sailed from Ephesus. So he had to go back and keep the feast in Jerusalem, all right, which we read in Acts 2 was an example of that. How all the Jews and devout men from all the kingdoms under heaven came back to Jerusalem to keep Pentecost. Let's see. Okay, 22. And when he had landed at Caesarea and gone up and saluted the assembly, he went down to Antioch. And after he had spent some time there, he departed and went over all the country of Galatia and Phrygia in order, strengthening all the disciples. And a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, all right, a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. All right, so this man was born in Alexandria. He was eloquent and he was mighty in the scriptures. This man was instructed in the way of Adonai, and being fervent in the spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of Yehoshua, knowing only the immersion of John. And he began to speak boldly in the congregation, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they took him unto them and expounded unto him the way of Elohim more perfectly. Because it said he only knew the baptism of John the Baptist. So Priscilla and Aquila pulled him to the side and they explained to him the more perfect gospel. It says that when he was disposed to pass into Achaia, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him, who, when he was come, helped them much which had believed through grace. For he mightily convinced the Jews and that publicly showing by the scriptures that Yehoshua was Mashiach by the scriptures. So how was he able to show Yehoshua by the scriptures? Yet you got people today who are Torah only and deny Mashiach. All they had during this time was the scripture. So something ain't right with that. All right, 19 says, and it came to pass that while Apollos was at Corinth, Paul, having passed through the upper coast, came to Ephesus. And finding certain disciples, he said unto them, have ye received the Ruach HaKodesh since ye believed? He's in Corinth. Have ye received the Ruach HaKodesh since ye believed? And they said unto him, we have not so much as heard whether there be any Ruach HaKodesh. And he said unto them, unto what then were ye baptized? And they said, unto John's baptism, unto John's immersion or baptism. Then said Paul, John verily immersed with the immersion of repentance, saying unto the people that they should believe on him which should come after him, that is, on Yehoshua HaMashiach. That is HaMashiach Yehoshua. When they heard this, they were immersed in the name of Adonai Yehoshua. When Paul had laid his hands upon them, the Ruach HaKodesh came on them, and they spake with tongues and prophesied. And all the men were about 12. And he went into the congregation and spake boldly for the space of 3 months, disputing and persuading the things concerning the kingdom of Elohim. But when divers were hardened and believed not, but spake evil of that way before the multitude, he departed from them and separated the disciples, disputing daily in the school of one Turnus. So, just like we read in the Apostle Paul's history, he wasn't shy of disputing with people, particularly the non-believing Jews. He was always disputing with them over the truth of the gospel, over Mashiach. All right. Verse 10, it says, and this continued for about the space of 2 years, so that all they which dwelt in Asia heard the word of Adonai Yehoshua. Once again, both Jews and Greeks. All right. So Asia, I think in this context, is talking about that region, all right, that we know of Asia Minor, all of those regions, those cities and countries that was in Asia Minor. It says, in Elohim wrought special miracles by the hands of Paul, so that from his body were brought unto the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the diseases departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them. Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits in the name of Adonai Yehoshua, saying, we adjure you by Yehoshua, whom Paul preached. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Yehoshua I know, and Apollos I know, but who are ye? And the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them was overcome them, and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. All right, so these men tried to mimic Paul in the power that the Most High gave him, and they ended up not prevailing, and this is why it's good not to pretend with that kind of stuff, because these are real spirits that they were encountered. It says, and this was known to all the Jews and Greeks also dwelling at Ephesus, And fear fell on them all, and the name of Adonai Yehoshua was magnified. And many that believed came and confessed and showed their deeds. Many of them also which used curious arts brought their books together and burned them before all men. And they continued, and they counted the price of them and found it 50,000 pieces of silver. Right, for they books of curious arts, books of spells, that they brought them and burned them, and the price of them was 50,000 pieces of silver. So mightily grew the word of Elohim and prevailed, and these things were ended. After these things were ended, Paul purposed in the spirit, when he had passed through Macedonia and Achaia, to go to Jerusalem, saying, after I have been there, I must also see Rome. So he went into Macedonia, two of them that ministered unto him, Timotheus and Erastus, but he himself stayed in Asia for a season. And the same time there arose no small stir about that way. For a certain man named Demetrios, a silversmith, which made silver shrines for Diana, brought no small gain unto the craftsmen, when we called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Adoniam, ye know that by this craft we have made our wealth. Read the Apocalypse of Abraham. It tells you that those who make idols are pretty much wealthy. You know, people who can make idols can make a lot of money. 26, moreover, ye see and hear that not alone at Ephesus, but almost throughout all Asia, this Paul hath persuaded and turned away much people, saying that there be no Elohim which are made with hands. So that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana should be despised, and her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worship. And when they heard these things, they were full of wrath and cried out, saying, Great is Diana of the Ephesians. And the whole city was filled with confusion. And having caught Gaius and Aristarchus, men of Macedonia, Paul's companions in travel, they rushed with one accord into the theater. And when Paul would have entered unto the people, the disciples suffered him not. And certain of the chiefs of Asia, which were his friends, sent unto him, desiring him that he would not adventure himself into the theater. Some therefore cried one thing and some another, for the assembly was confused, and more part knew not whereof they were come together. And they drew Alexandrios out of the multitude, the Jew putting him forward. And Alexandrios beckoned with the hand, and would have made his defense unto the people. But when they knew that he was a Jew, all with one voice about the space of 2 hours cried out, Great is Diana of the Ephesians. All right. So they started chanting more for their God once they saw who they put out in the forefront. It says, and when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshiper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from Jupiter? Seeing then that these things cannot be spoken against, ye ought to be quiet and to do nothing rashly. For ye have brought thither these men which are neither robbers of assemblies, nor yet blasphemers of your goddess. Wherefore, if Demetrius and the craftsmen which are with him have a matter against any man, the Torah is open, and there are deputies. Let them implead one another. But if ye inquire anything concerning other matters, it shall be determined in a lawful assembly. For ye are in danger to be called in question for this day's uproar, there being no cause whereby we may give an account on this concourse. So they out there making an uproar over the dispute that Demetrios brought up about Paul, saying that the gospel that he come to preach is gonna cause them not only to not be able to do their craft anymore, which is make idols, but it was going to cause people to despise the temple that they made to the God that they worship. Chapter 20. And after the uproar was ceased, Paul called unto him the disciples and embraced them and departed for to go into Macedonia. And when he had gone over those parts and had given them much exhortation, he came in to Yawan. That's the Greece. That's what Yawan is. And there abode 3 months. And when the Jews laid wait for him, the Jews that was in Greece laid wait for him, as he was about to sail into Aram, he purposed to return through Macedonia. And there accompanied him into Asia Sophotros of Berara, and of the Thessalonians, Aristarchus and Secundos, and Gaius, and Derbe, and Timotheus, and of Asia, Turkikos, and Trophimus. These going before tarried for us at Tyros. And we sailed away from Philippos after the days of unleavened bread, and came unto them to Tyros in 5 days, where we abode 7 days. And upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Apollos preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech unto midnight. And there were many lights in the upper chamber where they were gathered together. And there sat in a window a certain young man named Eutychus, being fallen into a deep sleep. And as Paul was long preaching, he sunk down with sleep and fell down from the third loft and was taken up dead. And Paul went down and fell on him, and embracing him said, Trouble not yourselves, for his life is in him. When he therefore was come up again and had broken bread and eaten and talked a long while, even till break of day, so he departed. And they brought the young man alive, and were not a little comforted. And we went before the ship and sailed unto Assosa, there intending to take in Apollos, for so had he appointed, minding himself to go afoot. And when he met with us at Assosa, we took him in and came to Mytilene, and we sailed thence and came the next day over against Chios, and the next day we arrived at Samos and tarried at Terragulion, and the next day we came to Miletos. A lot of traveling going on. We read about all these places that he's naming. The account that we read of the history gives the details on it. For Paul had determined to sail by Ephesus because he would not spend the time in Asia, for he hastened, if it were possible for him, to be at Jerusalem the day of Shabbat. Excuse me. And from Miletos he sent to Ephesus and called the elders of the assembly. And when they were come to him, he said unto them, Ye know from the first day that I came into Asia, after what manner I have been with you at all seasons, serving Elohim with all humility of mind, and with many years and temptations, which befell me by the laying in wait of the Jews, and how I kept back nothing that was profitable unto you, but have showed you and have taught you publicly, and from the house to house, testifying both to the Jews and also to the Greeks, repentance toward Elohim, faith toward our Adonai, Yehoshua Mashiach. And now, behold, I go bound in the spirit unto Jerusalem, not knowing the things which shall befall me there, save that the Ruach HaKodesh witness in every city, saying that bonds and afflictions abide me. But none of these things move me, neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with joy in the ministry which I have received of Adonai Yehoshua, to testify the gospel of the grace of Elohim. And now, behold, I know that ye all among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of Elohim shall see my face no more. Wherefore I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. For I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of Elohim. Take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock over which the Ruach HaKodesh hath made you overseers, to feed the assembly of Mashiach, which he had purchased with his own blood. Right. Take heed, and it says, for know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Grievous wolves after my departing. All right, so he's warning them. Where is this again? He's give me a second. Let me just reference something real quick. We know that in Corinthians, the Apostle Paul warns them of another Mashiach, all right, another gospel and another spirit. This is it says, for I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. Therefore watch and remember that by the space of 3 years I cease not to warn you every one night and day with tears. And you can kind of get that feel when you read through the letter in Corinthians, how he's warning them, fervently warning them. 32, it says, and now, brethren, I commend you to Elohim and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and to give you an inheritance among all them which are sanctified. All right. Not everybody's going to make it out, but those who do will be sanctified. And it says that your inheritance will be among them which are sanctified. It says, I have coveted no man's silver or gold or apparel. Yea, ye yourselves know that these hands have ministered unto my necessities. And to them that were with me, I have showed you all things, how that so laboring ye ought to support the weak, and to remember the words of Adonai Yehoshua, how he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And when he had thus spoken, he kneeled down and prayed with them all, and they all wept sore, and fell on Apollos' neck and kissed him, sorrowing most of all for the words which he spake, that they should see his face no more. And they accompanied him unto the ship. All right, so Apostle Paul is getting ready to leave again, but he's telling them that you're not going to see me anymore. You know, you're not going to see my face anymore. And so for that reason, they were sad. Of course, we read that also in the history, how a lot of people were sad upon his departure, you know, because he establishes himself, he established his fame with the people throughout the whole world during that time. So this is why his name is renowned today. However, if you examine his writings, he warned us of the coming deceptions. All right. So take a break. When we come back, we're going to pick it up where we left off. All right. Shalom and blessings to everybody. Thank you for tuning in and chiming in. May the Most High bless you for your time. I'll be right back.
Oh,
brothers and sisters, welcome back. I'll pick it up where we left off. Chapter 21, Book of Acts. It's a good comment. Sister Trust Cafe put up. She said, have much more respect for Paul's kingdom work after hearing the history of Paul. And I feel the same way, and after reading the history, you can kind of see why they left it out. It was to use the writings of Paul to cause people to do what Peter said most people do with the writings of Paul. They twist Paul's writings to their own destruction. If you come out of Christianity, more than likely that's what we were doing. We were twisting the writings of Paul, and that caused us to go astray. All right, but we see, according to the history, like I said, everything is sort of dealt with from a understood perspective. Back then you didn't have to tell them who were the Israelites. You didn't have to tell them who were Greeks. It was the same way it is now. If you're a black person born in Puerto Rico, then you are a Puerto Rican. If you're a black person born in Germany, then you are a German by nationality. This is how they looked at it back then. So you had a lot of Jews born in certain regions who were called after those regions in terms of their nationality. When chapter 21, it says, "And it came to pass that after we were gotten from them and had lunched, we came with a straight course unto Kos, and the day following unto Rhodes, and from thence unto Patara." Verse 2, "And finding a ship sailing over unto Panokia, we went aboard and set forth. Now when we had discovered Quifros, we left it on the left hand and sailed to Aram and landed in Zor. For there the ship was unlaid her burden. And finding disciples, we tarried there 7 days, and who said to Apollos through the Ruach that he should not go up to Jerusalem." And if you remember anything about the history we read, this is sort of revisiting that a little bit. It says that when he had accomplished those days, we departed and went our way, and they all brought us on our way with wives and children till we were out of the city. And we kneeled down on the shore and prayed. And when we had taken our leave one of another, we took ship, and they returned home again. And when we had finished our course from Zoar, we came to Ptolemais and saluted the brethren in Ptolemais, and abode with them one day. And the next day we came unto Caesarea. Another point I want to mention before I continue reading. Remember in Acts when it said all the disciples and the apostles met up, it said it was about 120 of them. All right, and so oftentimes when we think of the apostles, we only think of Peter and Paul and certain apostles, but you had 120 different apostles who, when the Most High sent out his apostles, he sent them out 2 by 2. So you have many accounts of the acts of the apostles, which we're going to bring out. I just wanted to mention that. Verse 8, it says, "And the next day we came unto Caesarea, and we entered into the house of Philippos the evangelist, which was one of the 7, and abode with him. And the same man had 4 daughters, virgins, which did prophesy. And as we tarried there many days, there came down from Judah a certain prophet named Hagab, And when he was come unto us, he took Paul's girdle and bound his own hands and feet, and said, Thus said the Ruach HaKodesh, so shall the Jew at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles. And when we heard these things, both we and they of that place, besought him not to go to Jerusalem. Then Paul answered, What mean ye to weep and to break mine heart? For I am ready not to be bound only, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of Adonai Yahushua. And when he would not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, The will of Adonai be done. And after those days, we took up carriages and went up to Jerusalem. There went with us also certain of the disciples of Caesarea, and brought with them one Mnason and Quiphros, an old disciple, with whom we should lodge. And when we were come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. And the day following, Paul went in with us unto Jacob, and all the elders were present. And when we had saluted them, they declared particularly what things Elohim had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. Once again, we read where Paul went among the Gentiles. But when he went to these Gentiles, who did he congregate with, and who was he speaking with? All right. The Jews and the Greeks. 20, it says, And when they heard it, they glorified Elohim and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are zealous of the law, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. All right. That's why Paul was telling them, by the works of the law, no flesh is justified. So they misunderstood what he was saying. 22, What is it therefore? The multitude must needs come together, for they will hear that thou art come. Do therefore this, that we say to thee, We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keepest the law. Now he's in Jerusalem, right? And as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from the things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangle, and from fornication. So right here, he's saying as touching the Gentiles, right? But when we go up and read the actual event, it's talking about the Jews who were among the Gentiles. The Jews, all right? But it says as touching the Gentiles. So it's a lot of practical application that goes into what we're reading right now. This is why it's so confusing, or it's confusing to some because of this right here, Gentiles. That was done on purpose. He said, as touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, right? And from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. All right. So we know the Gentiles worship idols. The Gentiles that we know, that we talking about. Verse 26, it says, Then Apollos took the men, and the next day they purified himself and with them entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were in Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on them, crying out, Men of Israel, help. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the Torah and this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple, and have polluted this holy place. For they had seen before with him in the city Trophimus, an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Apollos had brought into the temple. And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut. And as they went about to kill him, tidings came unto the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captains and soldiers, they left beating of Apollos. So y'all know the saying, Negroes is out of control now, right? They out of control. So what they do, every time our people get out of control, they send the police in the middle and start macing them. And, same thing here. They sent soldiers and centurions and ran down. And Paul was getting beat. All right. And it says, and the chief captains came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and demanded who he was and what he had done. And some cried one thing and some another among the multitude. Right, so they just, you know how it is with our people. It says that when he could not know the certainty of the tumult, he commanded him to be carried into the castle. When he had came upon the stairs, so it was that he was born of the soldiers for the violence of the people. It says, when he came unto the stairs, so it was that he was born of the soldiers for the violence of the people. For the multitude of the people followed after, crying, away with him. And as Apollos was to be led to the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar, and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? So he mistaken for an Egyptian. Say, can you speak Greek? But he said, Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarshish, a city of Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. And when he had given him license, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying, Men and brethren and fathers, hear ye my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silent. And he said, I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, as his history states, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward Elohim, as ye all are this day. And I persecuted this way unto death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest doth bear me witness, and all the estate of the elders, for whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem for to be punished. And it came to pass that as I made my journey and was come nigh to Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground, and I heard a voice saying unto me, Shaul, Shaul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Adonai? And he said unto me, I am Yehoshua of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. And they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. And I said, What shall I do, Adonai? Well, when it talks about it, it said, I believe it said they heard a voice, but they saw no man. All right. It says, and I said, What shall I do, Adonai? And Adonai said unto me, Arise and go into Damascus, and there shall be told thee of all things which are appointed for thee to do. When I could not see the glory of that light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came to Damascus. And one Cunninyahu, a devout man, according to the Torah, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there, came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Shaul, receive thy sight. In the same hour I looked up upon him, and he said, The Elohim of our fathers have chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will, and see that just one, and shouldest hear the voice of his mouth. For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of whom thou hast seen and heard. And now why tarriest thou? Arise and be immersed, and wash away thy sins, calling on his name. All right, so he simply said he was going to be a witness of Mashiach. He didn't say anything about changing the law, taking away the law, doing any of that. Why would the Most High use a man to do that when Mashiach himself came and said that wasn't the purpose of why he came? He's going to send a man after him to do away with the law. It doesn't make sense. Verse 17, and it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance, and I saw him saying unto me, Make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning me. And I said, Adonai, they know that I imprisoned and beat in every congregation them that believed on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephanos was shed, I also was standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee afar hence. I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles. And they gave him audience unto his word, and they lifted up their voices and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. And as they cried out and cast off their clothes and threw dust in the air, the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know whereof they cried so against him. And as they bound him with tongues, Paulo said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Why are they doing all this? Because the Romans, once again, were in control during this time. All right. And this kind of gives me the hint also that the leaders in Rome during this time may not have necessarily been what we would consider white people. 27, then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? And he said, Yea, I am a Roman. And the chief captain answered and said, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Paulo said, but I was freeborn. Then straightway they departed from him, which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, because he had bound him. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty whereof he was accused of the Jews. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty whereof he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Apollos down and set him before them. And Apollos, earnestly beholding the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. And the high priest, Kanayahu, commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth. Excuse me. Then said Apollos unto him, Elohim shall smite thee, thou whited wall, for sittest thou to judge me after the Torah, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the Torah? And they that stood by said, Revilest thou Elohim's priest? Priest was wicked anyway. It says, and they said, Apollos, I wish not, brethren, that he was a high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not revile Elohim, nor curse the ruler of thy people. But when Apollos perceived that the one part there was Zadokium and the other Parashim, scribes and Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Perush, the son of a Perush. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead I am called in question. And when he had said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and the Zadokium, and the multitude was divided. For the Zadokium say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor Ruach, but the Pharisees confess both. Okay, so you have scribes and Pharisees divided, saying that there is no resurrection, there are no angels, right? You got some Christians who say that, right? And it says nor spirit, all right? Verse 9, and there arose a great cry, and the scribes that were of the Parashim part arose and strove, saying, We find no evil in this man. But if a Ruach or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. Verse 10, and when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force from among them and to bring him into the castle. And the night following, Adonai stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, Apollos, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also at Rome. And when it was day, certain of the Jews band together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Apollos. Certain of the Jews bound themselves under a curse. All right, verse 13, and they were more than 40 which had made this conspiracy. And they came to the chief priests and elders and said, We have bound ourselves under a great curse, that we will eat nothing until we have slain Paul. Dude's gonna starve to death. A great curse. It says, and now therefore ye with the council signify to the chief captain that he bring him down unto you tomorrow, as though ye would inquire something more perfectly concerning him. And we, or ever he come near, are ready to kill him. And when Paul's sister's son heard of their lying in wait, he went and entered into the castle and told Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions unto him and said, Bring this young man unto the chief captain, for he hath a certain thing to tell him. So he took him and brought him to the chief captain and said, Paul, the prisoner, called me unto him and prayed me to bring this young man unto thee, who had something to say unto thee. And the chief captain took him by the hand and went with him aside privately and asked him, What is it that thou hast to tell me? And he said, The Jews have agreed to desire thee that thou wouldest bring down Paul tomorrow in the council, as though they would inquire somewhat of him more perfectly. But do not thou yield unto them, for there lie in wait for him of them more than 40 men, which have bound themselves with an oath, that they will neither eat nor drink till they have killed him. And now are they ready, looking for a promise from thee. So the chief captain then let the young man depart and charged him, See thou tell no man that thou hast showed these things to me. And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, Make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and horsemen 70, and spearmen 200 at the 3rd hour of the night, and provide them beasts that they may set Paul on and bring him safe unto Felix the governor. So they trying to get him out of Jerusalem so he can get to Rome. But you got 40 Jews that conspired to try to kill Paul. Now they got to try to sneak him up out of there or get him up out of there some kind of way. Excuse me. 25, and he wrote a letter after this manner. Claudius Lucius, unto the most excellent governor Felix, sendeth greeting. This man was taken of the Jews and should have been killed of them. Then came I with an army and rescued him, having understood that he was a Roman. And when I would have known the cause wherefore they accused him, I brought him forth into their council. Remember in the history, it said that to not get killed, Paul had appealed to Caesar, all right, because he was a Roman. And that's what kind of got him off the hook in a way. 29, it says, Whom I perceive to be accursed of questions of their Torah, but to have nothing laid to his charge worthy of death or of bonds. Questions of their Torah. Because remember, the Jews during this time, although they were in other regions, they kept their own customs. All right, some of them. You had some who were born in those different regions who kept the customs of those regions as well. And when it was told me how the Jews laid wait for the man, I sent straightway to thee and gave commandment that his accusers also to say before thee what they had against him. Farewell. Then the soldiers, as it was commanded them, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the morrow they left the horsemen to go with him and return to the castle, who, when they came to Caesarea and delivered the epistle to the governor, presented Apollos also before him. And when the governor had read the letter, he asked of what province he was. And when he had understood that he was of Cilicia, I will hear thee, said he, when thine accusers are come also. And he commanded him to be kept in Hordos' judgment hall. And after 5 days, Coniahu, the high priest, descended with the elders and with a certain orator named Tertullos, who informed the governor against Paul. And when he was called forth, Tertullos began to accuse him, saying, Seeing that by thee we enjoy great quietness, and that very worthy deeds are done unto this nation by thy providence, we accept it always in all places, most notable Felix, with all thankfulness. Notwithstanding that I be not further tedious unto thee, I pray thee that thou wouldest hear us of thy clemency a few words. For we have found this man a pestilent fellow and a mover of sedition, among all the Jews throughout the world. The Jews throughout the world. And a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes, who also had gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our law. But the chief captain Lucius came upon us and with great violence took him away out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come unto thee, because he had appealed to Caesar, by examining of whom thyself mayest take knowledge of all these things whereof we accuse him. And the Jews also assented, saying that these things were so. Then Paul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, For as much as I know that thou hast been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself, because that thou mayest understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem for to worship. For they neither found me in the temple disputing with any man, neither raising up the people, neither in the congregations, nor in the city. Neither can they prove the things whereof they now accuse me. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the Elohim of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the Torah and in the prophets. So they called him a heretic because he believed on the Most High through Mashiach. All right. But he says he believing all the things which are written in the Torah and in the prophets, and have hope toward Elohim, which they themselves also allow, that there should be a resurrection of the dead, both of the just and unjust. All right. So he's pretty much making his case. But like I told you, the things that pertain to our people, nobody during this time was really concerned about. 16, it says, And herein do I exercise myself to have always a conscience void of offense toward Elohim and toward men. Now after many years I came to bring alms to my nation and offerings, whereupon certain Jews from Asia found me purified in the temple, neither with multitude nor with tumult, who ought to have been here before thee, and object, but they had aught against me. Or else let these same here say, if they have found any evil doing in me while I stood before the council, except it be for this one voice, that I cry standing among them, touching the resurrection of the dead, I am called and questioned by you this day. Okay, so it ain't got nothing to do with the law of Moses or the keeping in the law or none of that. It has to do with the resurrection of the dead, the circumcision, and all of those things. It says, and when Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way, he deferred them and said, when Lucius the chief captain shall come down, I will know the uttermost of your matter. And he commanded a centurion to keep Apollos and to let him have liberty, and that he should forbid none of his acquaintances to minister or to come to him. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Apollos and heard him concerning the faith of Mashiach. All right, Felix. It said, Felix heard these things, having more perfect knowledge of that way. All right. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, all right, he sent for Apollos and heard him concerning the faith in Mashiach. And as he reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come, Felix trembled and answered, Go thy way for this time. When I have convenient season, I will call for thee. He hoped also that money should have been given him of Apollos, that he might loose him. Wherefore he sent for him the oftener and communed with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus came into Felix's room And Felix, willing to show the Jews a pleasure, left Apollos bound. All right. So he played it off in front of the Jews. 25. Now when Festus was come into the province, after 3 days, he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem. All right. In Jerusalem. So once again, showing you the rulership. Then the high priest and the chief of the Jews informed him against Paul and besought him and desired favor against him that he would send for him to Jerusalem, laying wait to kill him. So now they want to send him back to Jerusalem. But Festus answered that Paul should be kept at Caesarea and that he himself would depart shortly thither. Let them therefore, said he, which among you are able, go down with me and accuse this man, if there be any wickedness in him. And when he had tarried among them more than 10 days, he went down into Caesarea, and the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, commanded Paul to be brought. And when he had come, the Jews which came down from Jerusalem stood round about and laid many and grievous complaints against Paul, which they could not prove. Same thing happened with Mashiach. Same thing happened with all of the prophets and everybody that they tried to accuse of preaching the truth. 8. While he answered for himself, neither against the Torah of the Jews, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar, have I offended anything at all. So he's saying, I haven't done none of this stuff. I'm going to highlight 8. But Festus, willing to do to the Jews a pleasure, answered Apollos and said, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem and there be judged of these things before me? Then said Apollos, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. To the Jews have I done no wrong, as thou very well knowest. So they trying to set him up. They got all kind of stuff just waiting against them. For if I be an offender or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die. But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar. Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, hast thou appeared unto Caesar? Unto Caesar shalt thou go. And after certain days, King Agrippas and Bernice came unto Caesarea to salute Festus. When they had been there many days, Festus declared Apollos' cause unto the king, saying, there is a certain man left in bonds by Felix, about whom when I was at Jerusalem, chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me, desiring to have judgment against him. To whom I answered, it is not the manner of the Romans to deliver any man to die before that which he is accused, before that he which is accused have the accusers face to face, and have license to answer for himself concerning the crime laid against him. 17. Therefore, when they were come hither without any delay on the morrow, I sat on the judgment seat and commanded the man to be brought forth, against whom the accusers stood up. They brought none accusation of such things as I supposed, but had certain questions about him of their own superstition. And one of Yehoshua, which was dead, whom Apollos affirmed to be alive. 20. And because I doubted of such manner of questions, I asked him whether he would go to Jerusalem and there be judged of these matters. But when Paul had appealed to be reserved unto the hearing of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I might send him to Caesar. And Agrippa said unto Festus, I would also hear the man myself. Tomorrow, said he, thou shalt hear him. And on the morrow, when Agrippus was come, Bernice, with great pomp, was entered into the place of hearing, with the chief captains and principal men of the city. At Festus' commandment, Apollos was brought forth. And Festus said, King Agrippus, and all men which are here present with us, ye see this man about whom all the multitude of the Jews have dwelt with me, both at Jerusalem and also here, crying that he ought not to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing worthy of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I have determined to send him, of whom I have no certain thing to write unto Adonai. Wherefore I have brought him forth before you, and specially before thee, O King Agrippus, that after examination had, I might have somewhat to write. For it seemeth to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not withal to signify the crimes laid with him. So basically he's sending him to Caesar, but he don't have anything to accuse him of. All right, 26. Then Agrippa said unto Apollos, thou art permitted to speak for thyself. And Apollos stretched forth the hand and answered for himself, I think myself happy, King Agrippus, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee touching all the things whereof I am accused of the Jews, especially because I know thee to be an expert in all customs and questions which are among the Jews. All right, so he said King Agrippas was an expert in all the customs and questions which were among the Jews. So it said, wherefore I beseech thee to hear me patiently, my manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among mine own nation at Jerusalem, known all the Yudim, the Jews, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I lived a Pharisee. And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of Elohim unto our fathers, unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving Elohim day and night, hope to come. 12 tribes. But Israel and Judah was separate during this time. All right, but he's speaking of the 12 tribes. The 10 tribes that long been gone and separated. All right. For which hope's sake, King Agrippas, I am accused of the Jews. Why should it be thought a thing incredible which you, that Elohim should raise the dead? I verily thought with myself that I ought to do many things contrary to the name of Yehoshua of Nazareth, which thing I also did in Jerusalem. And many of the saints did I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priests. And when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them, and I punished them off in every congregation and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them even unto strange cities. Whereupon, as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests at midday, O king, I saw in the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of the sun, shining round about me, and them which journeyed with me. And when we had fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me, saying in the Hebrew tongue, Shaul, Shaul, why persecutest thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And I said, who art thou, Adonai? And he said, I am Yehoshua, whom thou persecutest. But rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness, both of these things which thou hast seen, and of those things which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles unto whom now I send to thee, to open their eyes and to turn them from the darkness to light, and from the power of Satan unto Elohim, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Whereupon, O King Agrippas, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision, but showed first unto them of Damascus, and at Jerusalem, and throughout all the coasts of the Jews, and then to the Gentiles, that they should repent and turn to Elohim, and do works meet for repentance. For these causes the Jews caught me in the temple, and went about to kill me. Having therefore obtained help of Elohim, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come. So who was he speaking to? All right. Who was he speaking to when he went out preaching the gospel? All right. When it said, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come. All right. So he was declaring the words of the law and the prophets. He was expounding on it in a way that the priests didn't understand it, because they were corrupted anyway during this time. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. Hold on one second. All right. So we're at 23. That Mashiach should suffer, and that he should be the first that should rise from the dead, and should show light unto the people and to the Gentiles. And as for he thus spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Apollos, thou art beside thyself. Much learning doth make thee mad. But he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak forth the words of truth and soberness. For the king knoweth of these things, before whom also I speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him, for this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippas, believest thou the prophets? I know that thou believest. Then King Agrippas said unto Apollos, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. So King Agrippas know that the stuff is true. And I wonder why. Now he's saying, man, you trying to persuade me to be a Christian. Right? He ain't denying that he don't know the things is true. It says, and Paulo said, I would to Elohim that not only thou, but also all that hear me this day were both almost and altogether such am I, except these bonds. So in other words, I wish you and everybody who hear me today was like me, except for being locked up, meaning in spirit and in belief. And when he had thus spoken, the king rose up, and the governor and Bernice and they that sat with him. And when they were gone aside, they talked between themselves, saying, this man doth nothing worthy of death or of bonds. Then said Agrippas to Festus, this man might have been set at liberty if he not appealed unto Caesar. Verse 27, and when it was determined, chapter 27, when it was determined that we should sail into Italia, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus's band, and entering into a ship of Adramyttium, we launched, meaning to sail by the coast of Asia, one Aristarchus, and Macedonian of Thessalonica being with us. And the next day we touched at Zidon, And Julius courteously entreated Paulos and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. When he had launched from thence, we sailed under Quiphros because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Mura, a city of Lycia. And there a centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italia, and he put us therein. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and scarce were come over against Quinidos, the wind was not suffering us. We sailed under Crete over against Salmon, and hardly passing it came unto a place which is called the Fair Haven, nigh whereunto was the city of Lasea. Now when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them and said unto them, Adonian, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the lading in ships, but also of our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Panokia, and there to winter, which is in an haven of Crete, and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had attained their purpose, losing thence, they sailed close to Crete. But not long after arose against it tempestuous wind called Eurocyclodon. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive, and running under a certain island, which is called Claudia, we had much work to come by the boat. So that's dealing with when they was shipwrecked. And when they had taken up, they used helps undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksands, strake sailed so were driven. And we being exceedingly tossed with the tempest, the next day they lightened the ship, and the third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither the sun nor the stars in many days appeared, no small tempest lay on us. All hope that we should be saved was then taken away. And after long absence, Apollo stood forth in the midst of them and said, Adonia, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm of loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there should be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel of Elohim, whose I am, and whom I serve, saying, Fear not, Paulos. Thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, Elohim hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe Elohim that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit, we must be cast upon a certain island. But when the 14th night was come, as we were driven up and down in Adria, about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again, and found it 15 fathoms. Then, fearing lest we should have fallen upon the rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern, and wished for the day. And as the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat into the sea under the color, as though they would have cast anchors on the foreships, Apollo said to the centurion and to the soldiers, Except these abide in the ship, ye cannot be saved. And the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. And while the day was coming in, Apollos besought them all to take meat, saying, This day is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing. Wherefore I pray you to take some meat, for this is for your health. For there shall not an hair fall from the head of any of you. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread and gave thanks to Elohim in presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. And were they all of good cheer. And they also took some meat, and were in all in one ship 216 souls. When they had eaten enough, they lighted the ship and cast out the wheat into the sea. And when it was day, they knew not the land, but they discovered a certain creek with a shore, into the which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves unto the sea, and loosed their rubber bands, and hosed up the mainsail to the wind, and made toward shore. And falling into a place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart stuck fast and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Apollos, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land, and the rest, some on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to the land. 28. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. When Apollos had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, No doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffered not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit, they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was an Elohim. In the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who receiving us and lodged us 3 days courteously. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and of a bloody flux, to whom Apollos entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him. So when this was done, others also, which had diseases in the island, came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors. And when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. And after 3 months, we departed in the ship of Alexandria, which had wintered in the isle, whose sign was Castor and Pollux. And landing at Syracuse, we tarried there 3 days. I'm not quite sure what that means. 13. And from thence we fetched a compass and came to Region. And after 1 day the south wind blew. We came the next day to Puteoli, where we found brethren, and were desired to tarry with them 7 days. And so we went toward Rome. And from thence, when the brethren heard of us, they came to meet us as far as IP Forum and the 3 taverns, whom when Paulo saw, he thanked Elohim and took courage. And when we came to Rome, the centurion delivered the prisoners to the captain of the guard. But Apollos was suffered to dwell by himself with a soldier that kept him. And it came to pass that after 3 days, Paul called the chief of the Jews together. And when they were come together, he said unto them, Men and brethren, though I have committed nothing against the people or customs of our fathers, yet was I delivered prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans. All right. He called the chiefs among the Jews, and he told them, Men and brethren, though I have committed nothing against the people or the customs of our fathers, yet was I delivered prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans, who, when they examined me, would have let me go, because there was no cause of death in me. But when the Jews spake against it, I was constrained to appeal unto Caesar, not that I had aught to accuse my notion of. For this cause thereof have I called for you, to see you and to speak with you, because that for the hope of Israel I am bound with chains. For the hope of Israel. Who is the hope of Israel? Yehoshua HaMashiach is the hope of Israel. He said, for the hope of Israel I am bound with chains. And they said unto him, We neither received letters out of Judah concerning thee, neither any of the brethren that came showed or spake any harm of thee, because they were conspiring against him. 22. But we desire to hear of thee what thou thinkest as concerning this sect. We know that everywhere it is spoken against. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of Elohim, persuaded them concerning Yehoshua both out of the Torah of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning to evening. The same thing Yehoshua did after he resurrected. And he went in the laws, the Psalms, and the prophets, and expounded on the scriptures concerning himself. And some believed the things which were spoken, and some believed not. Same constant theme. And when they agreed not among themselves, they departed. Because Mashiach said he came to bring a sword. He came to bring division. It says, and when they agreed not among themselves, they departed after that Paulos had spoken one word. Well spake the Ruach HaKodesh by Isaiah the prophet unto our fathers, saying, Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Be it known therefore unto you, that the salvation of Elohim is sent unto the Gentiles, and that they will hear it. When he said these words, the Jews departed, and had great reasoning among themselves. And Paulos dwelt 2 whole years in his own hired house, and received all that came in unto him, preaching the kingdom of Elohim, and teaching those things which concern Adonai Yehoshua HaMashiach, with all confidence. And that concludes the book of Acts. All right, 28 chapters, and basically revisiting most of what we dealt with in the history. But of course, in the history, we went more into detail. And so establishing further who all this was transpiring against, who were the active players during the Apostle Paul's time when he went out and preached. Who was he preaching to? What was the purpose of his preaching? It was to bring back all the 12 tribes, bring back the lost sheep into the fold. All right. Some of our people believed and some of our people didn't believe. All right. And so we're going to conclude this. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to close out tonight's session, the book of Acts. I hope everybody was edified from this. And like I mentioned, most high willing, next week, we're going to come back and we're going to deal with the same history of Apostle Peter, the Acts history and contendings of Apostle Peter. But I'll talk more briefly about that after I come back. Shalom.
What up, B? What up, B? What up, B?
Shalom, shalom. I want to thank you, brothers and sisters, once again for chiming in and participating in this work. I want to thank you, brothers and sisters, for being an encouragement to this work, and I hope it's edifying. I hope it's bringing more understanding in terms of helping us see who the record is meant for, who all the good things are meant for. That's why I always open up with Romans 9. To all my brothers and sisters, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of Elohim, and the promises, and even salvation, the hope, our hope, Israel's hope, speaking of Mashiach, all that came through us and is meant for us. And so, we have to realize that that's written in the New Testament, quote unquote. So from the Old Testament to the New, nothing changes. Our great apostle Paul didn't come on the scene and try to change anything. All he did was he did the will of the Most High. The same spirit that the Most High gave to Paul, the same understanding as the Most High, is the same spirit and understanding that the Most High wanted Israel to have the whole time. The Most High saw the hearts of our forefathers. He knew that they were gonna fail and come up short because their hearts wasn't set on Him. That's why the main part of the new covenant is He said He's gonna circumcise our hearts and the hearts of our children. And so that's what we see happening today. A lot of our people are waking up and their hearts are gravitating to the truth and to the Most High. And now we ready to go home. But before we go home, it's a lot of things we have to address and acknowledge. My wife and I was talking about this earlier, and she was saying how, a lot of times she doesn't really feel ready to go. And I agree with her. A lot of us, we aren't ready to go. And alongside with praying for the Most High to bring down this nation, the main thing we need to be praying for is for the Most High to go ahead and start separating us, separating us from the people, bringing us together if it be His will. And then, allowing the judgments to come forth in the full, and that's if it be His will. We may have to endure where we are. Remember, the prophecy said 1,000 shall fall on thy left side and 10,000 on thy right side, but none shall come nigh thee. So even if we are scattered and in different places, the Most High is still able to single us out and separate us. But in any case, the separation part is where we want to be on one accord with, whatever that means. We want to be separate. We want to come out of Babylon so that we won't be partakers of her sins nor of her plagues. But once again, I want to thank you, brothers and sisters, for vibing out with us this weekend. It's been a pleasure, a blessing, and an honor. I think this will be my routine starting from Fridays all the way through the weekend. And so just to kind of get brothers and sisters used to that, we'll still do work throughout the week, but that'll be mostly my focus on the weekends. But Wednesday nights, we want to not forget about Kingdom Conversations. Of course, we can't forget about that. But as always, that platform, being it in the center of the week, is a good platform for people to fellowship and come and kind of unwind and, talk about issues that pertain to our people. Hosted by Brother Cleo, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. All right. So look forward to seeing you brothers there, brothers and sisters. Our emails, saltoftheearth144@gmail, ebrestore@gmail, morriscales1@hotmail. I was informed today that Brother Kadar's email is good, so anybody want to use these 3 emails for music or any other thing you may feel you want to bring forth to encourage the family, feel free to send that via email. If you got any questions about anything, any PDFs you want to get your hands on, email me and request those, and we'll do the best we can to try to get you whatever we can get you on that note. So what else we had? I think that was it. Oh yeah, the Friday nights, prayer and fellowship. Don't forget about that either. Ranging anywhere from I think 6:30 to 8:30. And that'll be 6:30 Pacific time, I believe. But on that note, I want to give a shout out to my Salt of the Earth brothers. I want to say shalom and blessings to my brothers over at the Salt of the Earth. Also, everybody else who's doing work for the Most High, I want to say shalom and blessings to you. May the Most High be a blessing to you. On that note, I'm going to say shalom and blessings, brothers and sisters. All praises to the Father, Heavenly Father, sustainer of all things. Yehoshua Mashiach, his only divine Son, who shed his blood for the remission of our sins. And through him we have redemption and eternal life. All praises to him, all praises to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of truth, and the Comforter. All right. Brothers and sisters, be obedient, be encouraged. This has been another Salt of the Earth Productions. Hallelujah.
Everywhere I go, the children rising. Everywhere I go, the children rising. I saw them just rise up. The wicked running. I saw them just rise up.